I have flown to Barcelona, Spain to play the most important tournament of my life. The Sunway Chess International, regrouping 242 chess players from over 40 different countries. At my current rating of 2079, this is a global test of my true level against top competition. Only 12 points away from my peak achieved last month, I seek to cross 2100 for the first time ever. Welcome to episode 2 of my 10-round tournament in Sitges, Spain. This recap is sponsored by our friends over at ChessReps. If you're looking for a way to memorize your openings in a science-backed way, I highly recommend ChessReps' software. You can choose from a multitude of openings from their diverse catalog. You can also now create a chess course from your own PGN file and learn through the ChessReps software. Find the link in my description to try ChessReps for free for 7 days. I plunge into this game in round 2 of the Sitges Sunway Open in Spain. Welcome to the second recap, and I prepared a total surprise for this game. I played a move I have never played over the board in my entire career up till this moment. I played the first move, d4 here, which is acting as a complete surprise to my opponent, who's a 40-year-old man from the Netherlands originally, who is now living in France. And so we spoke in French before the round, very kind man. And after d4, he didn't even seem shocked by my surprise. He played immediately knight d6. I was like, oh man. A little bit of context about my opponent is he had 0 games in the database, and I want a positional struggle against my lower rated opponent when playing down. I feel like that's very reasonable, and I don't want to play 1e4, which is my usual, because he has 0 games in the database. So he has all the information on me, and I have 0 information on Rene. So I played d4 for the first time because I want a game. So knight f6, c4, e6, and after knight c3, I get exactly what I played the last game of the tournament, bishop b4, the Nimzo Indian defense with the black pieces. Although now I have the white pieces, and I have never played against this ever in my life, but I have like 3 OTB games, over the board games, with the black pieces in this position. But I played something that I have never played against with black. Jokingly before the game with my friend Anushka, we said that if I got the Nimzo Indian, we really love the positions after the F3. Nimzo Indian. The sharpest one.
This is
so
crazy.
You exactly were on the spot there. My positional struggle that I wanted, completely out the window. I'm going for a cutthroat, it's like complete fight over the board, and we're here for it. So d4. d5 is a classic idea for the black pieces, just to take up the center. The whole idea of this f3 in the Nimzo Indian for white is to get this push e4 in. And so black must defend against that. And so my goal is to kick the bishop. My opponent trades on c3, which is already for me out of book. For me, I had the bishop e7 in my file. So takes, and I'm out of book. My opponent seems still confident. He plays c5 immediately, putting a nice amount of pressure on the center. And now I take a pretty long turn. And so here, this is where I was completely puzzled. Okay. Because this pawn mass in the center is completely confusing, and as you said, that's what reminded me of this bishop g5 move, which I ended up not playing. You see, it's very hard to play. Do I take here, knight takes, attacking my pawn, and maybe some queen a5? Do I take here and triple my pawns? That doesn't look correct. And finally, I played this very solid e3. And my plan is exactly like my opponent's plan from the last game in round 1, to just eventually push e4 and take the center if, you know, it's a fruitful opportunity. So knight c6, my opponent develops, puts more pressure on the center, and now I develop my king side and try to castle ASAP. And finally, I take on d5, pawn takes, and go castles. And so my opponent goes rook e8, completes development of his rooks, and I do the same. And after queen c7, I play a move that I came up with kind of on the spot. Of course, I don't know the plans of this position. I don't know nothing. I want to go with knight
g3 f5, but that looks like too soft of a plan, too easy for my opponent to defend against. So I play this really wild move. Please don't judge me. I'm a very aggressive player by nature. This is what happens when an e4 player plays 1d4 for the first time. You get g4 over the board. It's like completely insane. So it's inaccurate, but really I want to play knight g3 and then g5 eventually in my life so that this knight doesn't have this h5 square to be kicked out of. And this knight will have to surrender to this really inferior d7 square here. So okay, a5, my opponent attempts to trade his bad bishop for my very good bishop on d3, we saw in the Nimzo Indian, with this bishop a6 defended by this rook. But I won't let that happen as easily as that. So I go knight g3, h6 to defend against this g5, and now I want to play this h4, g5. That's like the plan of attack for the white pieces, but there's a small problem on h4 is that my knight is completely hanging by attack of this queen. So what do I play? Well, I'm thinking to myself, this is an attacking piece that's not yet developed, but still under wraps. This is also an attacking piece. This is an attacking piece. This is a piece that's in the game. There's only one piece that's not in the game. And as Yasser Seirawan, a grandmaster from the US, would say, when you're attacking, bring every piece to the party. So here I played rook a2. A very interesting idea that was inspired by none other than Gukesh D in the World Cup, who played this in his second or first game against Frederick Svane, a German grandmaster. And he eventually lost that game, but this was a very prophylactic and deep move of inspiration by Gukesh. And I use it here. My plan is to go rook g2, defend this knight, and line up this rook against this king so I can uplift this h4, g5 pushes. So bishop d7. My opponent is developing, but this move, the black pieces are not increasing, are not getting better from a move like bishop d7. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. Just lets me do my plan. Rook g2. And now rook a8. And finally, we see what black is doing. Black was clearing this square on c8 for this rook to now threaten takes, let's say pawn takes, knight takes. He wants to sacrifice the knight, pawn takes, rook takes, remove the defender of this bishop, queen takes, and then queen takes c1 bishop. I assume everyone saw that, of course. And so black would come out of this trade with a pawn up. But I have a little trick up my sleeve. You see, there's something wrong and off about my opponent's tactics. And so I ignore it largely and I play pawn to h4, completely giving up this pawn for seemingly free. And so my opponent, like bait to a shark, takes on d4 once, takes on d4 twice, and now of course I cannot take this because the rook's trade off and I lose this pawn, right? Because of queen takes c1 and black gets to trade queens. Absolute no-no, but I don't have to take this knight. And that's what I played, bishop b2. I didn't take the knight. Instead, I say a very gracious thank you very much to my opponent for letting me open up my second bishop against this king and line up this king like that famous Kasparov game against Anatoly Karpov, in which he has this raise of bishops on these two diagonals pointing towards the king. I call this the raise of bishops. This is trademark TM copyright because the bishops are like the rays of sunlight.
Oh,
beaming
really?
across the chessboard. I've always liked to
targeting the king.
Yes. And so my opponent, the knight attacked twice now, needs to move back, and all of these black pieces are suddenly looking quite funny against all of my attacking pieces, my bishops, my knight, my rook here, and this pawn push that's coming soon. And so I have a choice. Do I want to take this and create a weakness here and go knight h5, or, which I looked beyond, play g5 immediately with the idea to unravel my rook on this king and open up some files. So takes, and this was the better decision, this g5, because after knight h7, white is suddenly completely winning even though the game is complete equal material. So how is white winning here? I have ideas of g6, I have ideas of bishop takes h7 even, I have ideas of bishop takes g7, I looked at all of this. Queen b1 was one of the more creative ones. Because the knight's trapped. But then I ended up playing f4. The concept this time is to open up the queen to bring it into action. So invite all the pieces to the party. The queen is like the final piece that's not doing anything in this game. This rook even is defending the base of the fort. So this queen is now looking to arrive on h5 at some point in the future, and so I'm anticipating, of course, g6, preventing queen h5. And now comes the first of not one, not two, not even three, but four brilliant piece sacrifices in this game. And the first one is knight h5. So, of course, you see the eval bar, it's not the absolute best move in this position. Actually, more patience was needed to convert the full point the easiest way possible. I think it's some rook h2 here is +4, but knight h5 is a super strong move in which you cannot take my knight because this is completely winning. Queen takes pawn, threatening checkmate a dozen different ways, and black cannot defend against the raise of bishops and the pressure in this position. So my opponent plays d4, trying his absolute best to block my bishop off the long diagonal. And now I have this knight that's hanging on h5, this bishop that's closed off on the long diagonal. What do I play here? So here my idea was to go knight f6 check, so forcing this trade, and now we got what we wanted. We opened up the rook against this king in a beautiful x-ray. And it's not like this king can just march away, because here I had the very nice rook h2, which is just threatening mate and forcing the king to go back to g8. And now I have my rook on that open file, the king back to g8, and just +1 move for the white pieces. So this didn't make sense. What did make sense was my opponent's reply, rook e6. He's trying to take this and defend this g6 pawn, and now the white pieces have to act. And so this was a better move, which is very, very hard to play. I have to play this, rook takes, and queen h6 is completely winning for white apparently, but I played our second brilliant move of the game, bishop takes g6. So sacrificing a second piece in this game, and again, my opponent does not take the piece, because if takes, it's completely over. Rook takes g6, any of the king moves to the right is checkmate with queen h5, and if the king goes to f8 here, I had this really nice rook g8 and king takes. We have queen g4, queen g7, and queen g8 with checkmate. And if my opponent goes king f7, we have queen h5, and then this is going to be mate, right? So my opponent can't go here, and if king f7, now I have queen h5 lining up a ton of discoveries and just mating this king at any moment of the day. This I thought was completely over and is. So my opponent plays rook takes pawn. So now I have another piece that's hanging, that's just sitting there on the board. And what do I do with this? I play bishop takes f7, sacrificing my bishop for a second time this game, and this is my third piece sacrifice. So what does this do? This is a double check. The greatest possible move in check, the most forcing move in check is double check on the king. Wait. The most forcing move in chess is the double check on the king, because the king has to move on a double check. It is forced. Whereas a single check you can block. So here, anything that the king moves, queen h5, bishop g8 check, queen f7 is mate, and all the way back here, if the king goes here, it's mate in 2 moves, like this. So the king has to decide between king f8 and king takes bishop. And so if you take the bishop, queen h5 I judged, and then king here, rook g7, king here, and I just had bishop takes d4, and I thought this was completely winning because of bishop e5, rook d1 coming in, and my opponent's piece up cannot be justified at all. So here, my opponent plays the only legal move that doesn't obviously lose immediately and plays king f8. And so now I have queen h5, but I played bishop d5, kind of an inaccurate move. I was down heavily on time here, trying to meet time control. Basically, I'm trying to play rook g8 here, but I saw that after bishop e6, which is a logical move to try to block this rook g8 and bishop bishop to g8 connection, is bishop takes knight. So I'm removing the defender of this pawn on d4, and now queen takes d4, which I hallucinated at first. I thought bishop takes was the only move, but no, queen takes d4, attacking this rook, earning the long diagonal, and this rook is coming in as well. So all of my pieces are forming like a very nice pressure on this g7 square around this king, and my opponent simply can't contain the pressure and plays rook f7 here. After which, I looked at rook g8 and thought this was winning because king takes queen h8 is mate, but my opponent just plays king e7 after rook g8, and there's absolutely nothing that I can do there. So I thought, why don't I play rook c1 first, lining up this queen and rook in a skewer, and after the queen moves, I just trade pieces, and now rook g8, the fourth piece sacrifice of this game in my first ever 1d4 game in my life, sacrificing a rook, and if king takes, it's mate on h8. And if this king moves, it's rook takes queen, which is winning the game instantly. So my opponent actually let me play it out, whispered to me during the game for the stream, because I was recording it, I wasn't streaming it, but he said for the stream, and I played queen h8, checkmate. Beautiful game. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in recap number 3.
In my next game, I play an opening for the very first time against a 13-year-old American girl.